You're listening to the Caramel Apples podcast. I'm Kennedy Rizzo,
And I'm Cooper Lee.
and this week we're going to do a deep dive into the ever famous rock group, that of Huey Lewis and the News, and how they heavily influenced, impacted, and entranced so many back then, all the way up to present day. So, without further ado, let's slide on into the orchard. So, in our discussion this week, we, the Caramel Apples, will revisit and briefly look back on some of the fascinating history and career highlights of one of the most well known bands of the rockin' 80s, that of Huey Lewis and the News.
Yay! Let's just say one of ours, but not only ours, but also my hubby's top 10 favorite bands of all time.
Oh, nice.
He really, really likes Huey Lewis and the News.
Oh, totally. Good choice there. That's awesome. And the reason why that is because, of what we remember.
hmm
So, a good way to describe being a teen back in the 80s is this: everything was just so alive, carefree, and fun back then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those years were just the epitome of fun, hands down.
I think you nailed it. And, real quick, speaking of fun, do you recall if Huey Lewis had a mullet in the mid 80s by chance? you know, the business in the front, all party in the back mantra. Long live the mullet. Not.
Well, it was the 80s, so
It needed to go the way of the dodo.
everything keeps coming back. I don't know. Yeah, he probably did have a mullet. Yuck. See, this week's discussion is the much needed nostalgic elixir we need to decompress due to the things being so different and stressful nowadays.
hmm
It goes to show that nothing stops us from having a bit of refreshing, much needed retro fun.
That's correct. And it's always so good and healthy to have some fun.
hmm
But in all seriousness, though, let's get into the brief history of how they started and discuss some of the numerous musical successes we've come to know and love. Shall we?
Sounds good.
Okay.
So, Huey Lewis and the News was formed in the late 70s in the year 1979 in the Bay Area of San Francisco, California. They released their first album the following year in 1980, self entitled Huey Lewis and the News.
No,
I
go
know
figure.
that was a big shocker, wasn't it?
Which came first, the name or the band?
Inquiring minds want to know. But a couple years after that, they released their second album named Picture This, which helped them become a household name. They got going and were truly on fire.
They were. It was on the second album that contained their first top 10 single song, Do You Believe in Love? That's a great song if you don't go by what I just did. And I totally remember it. This single, as well as their many other following hits, charted hard and fast, right in the height of the 80s and on into the 90s.
hmm
The undeniable influence from the MTV era helped fan the flames of their success. But the number of other singles off the album, Picture This, was on heavy rotation therein.
Yeah. And MTV was a cultural phenomenon, and it boosted many a musician to legendary status.
Absolutely.
But get this, they just got started and were already blazing hot. If they indeed enjoyed their success and popularity then, boy, did they probably have like a coronary from the massive success their next and third album brought to them. So now we've entered the year 1983 with their release of the album Sport.
Yes. Sport by far was Huey Lewis and the News' biggest claim to fame, yielding five, count 'em, five singles.
Oh my goodness, amazing.
It is. It really is amazing. And we've already spoke of one of the main entities that catapulted their musical success. That was MTV.
Yes, uh-huh.
And that alone helped them become world famous at this point. But the other pivotal catalyst that made this band legendary was yet another familiar single off the Spore album. And that was the mega hit, The Power of Love, which was
Oh,
featured in the 1985 blockbuster hit film Back to the Future.
ah, yes, Back to the Future. The power of love. And I'm telling you, one of the ultimate 80s movies anthems of all time.
Ah,
And the reason why this was so awesome because it starred one of my ultimate 80s husbands. That being Michael J. Fox.
here we go.
I know I need to behave myself right.
Yes.
But I can't help it. That's just how I am. Good times, Coop, and good memories. Oh my goodness, this instantly takes you back. So the single The Power of Love is synonymous to Back to the Future.
Yes, it's like hand in glove, peanut butter and jelly.
Right? But The Power of Love reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart. So that's what you call the massive dual effect of two powerhouse entities.
Mhm.
That of the power ballad from Huey Lewis and the News' The Power of Love, pun intended, and the exciting magnetism of Michael J. Fox. Oh, lovely. Absolutely pure bliss.
And speaking of pure bliss, check out this fun fact. Not only did The Power of Love reach #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 singles chart, but get this, it also got an Oscar nomination for Best Original Song.
Well, that is pretty cool, but not surprising at all. That is pretty cool there, Coop. Now, this song, The Power of Love, actually became one of the biggest selling songs Huey Lewis and the News ever released.
Mm.
Yeah, that's not surprising either, is it?
No, no, not at all.
So you got a winning combination here, bar none. The 80s were popular for and full of seismic examples of blissful successes such as this. The movie Back to the Future debuted in theaters in the year 1985,
Okay.
so it is of no doubt Huey Lewis and the News' contribution to the pop culture success it became is quite the understatement.
True that. So, fresh off of that, now the flames are burning white hot for Huey Lewis and the News, and they wasted no time in releasing a follow up album named Four.
Four.
Duck!
They were playing golf now.
So, the Four album, that came out in the year of 1986.
Yes.
This album, too, was jaw dropping successful, with the proof of six, count 'em, six singles that
Mm-mm-mm.
dominated the music charts, containing the ever familiar tracks Hip to Be Square, Doing It All for My Baby, Stuck with You, and Jacob's Ladder.
Step by step, one by one.
Wow.
Oh, that was awesome, wasn't it?
We have zero record deals coming our way. I just hope you know that. Neither one of us are going to get a record deal today.
Yeah, let's just speak to or stick to speaking.
Maybe.
Maybe can't even do that. Jeez.
Oh boy. Those last two entries hit the number one spot here in the US on the Billboard Hot 100 chart.
Huey Lewis and the News' musical legacy was emblazoned in history and our speakers, which we've briefly hit upon reminiscing about their numerous chart successes back in the day.
Hmm.
Truly, when you hear any of their many classic tunes, when you hear them, just like a true time machine, those songs definitely and effortlessly take you back to the 80s.
Yes, the songs musically sound like fun, authentic good times of that era, especially the mid 80s.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a huge phenomenal pop culture reference that gave their sound that obvious boost and carved out their well deserved place in our nostalgic memories. Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show.
That's a nice segue into some of the wonderfully nostalgic tracks of the group's four album. Some of the singles off of it were mentioned just moments ago that we have come to know and love, but in my estimation, if you want a good compilation of the many familiar, lovable tracks of Huey Lewis and the News,
Mhm.
I would suggest looking into buying and or downloading Greatest Hits Huey Lewis and the News, which came out in May 2006. Yeah. One of the better greatest hits compilations, hands down.
I totally agree. This is a really good one.
Hmm.
The familiar singles on this album are The Heart of Rock and Roll, I Want a New Drug, The Power of Love,
Yay!
Jacob's Ladder, Stuck with You, Doing It All for My Baby, If This Is It, Do You Believe in Love, Heart and Soul, Perfect World. Whew. As well as about six or seven other favorite hits of theirs that have effortlessly entertained us over the years.
Yeah, that was a long list there, wasn't it, there, Coop?
Yes, it was.
Would you like a glass of water after that?
Please and thank you.
Now, quick question: which one of these songs can you think off the top of your head that your husband likes? Like he will be singing with it if he hears it on the radio.
No, that's a really good question. Oh,
Probably all of them.
probably, yeah. Yep, I would say you're right about that.
Okay. Well, you'll have to. That's your homework assignment. You'll have to find out.
I'll have to check with him.
So after hearing that list off that Coop just gave, this sounds like it would be a great musical investment, especially if you're naturally a Huey Lewis and the News fan, or better yet, a hardcore 80s music super fan type. So again, it's got our vote. Great pick here for your cherished nostalgic collection.
Love it.
Oh yeah.
Huey is simply great, and he was very fitting for the face and front man for the group because he had that classic, rugged, handsome type of look that made the ladies swoon. Then that coupled with that oh so distinctive self assured voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about a winning combination. That was one hands down.
Oh, much agreed. Yeah, the whole idea of the band or group was to have and deliver fun and good times. And as you said, it's heavily demonstrated in the music and the resulted success of an era.
Hmm.
This compilation of this particular greatest hits is quite a satisfying collection. Hey, and it's worth mentioning again that Back to the Future's official anthems on the album. The Power of Love. Come on.
We made it back to that again.
We did.
I think this would actually be a clear cut example of dialing up and embracing our inner pop nerd, if you will.
Yes, let's nerd on.
There's worse things to be, right?
Oh, yeah. But when you hear The Power of Love, instantly it takes your mind to the scenes of Michael J. Fox, aka Marty McFly, when he's on his skateboard in his brief but exciting commute to school. Those creative components together is the stuff memories are made of. Nostalgic gold for sure. So now, one of the last notable albums Huey Lewis and the News released near the end of the decade was from the album Small World, released in 1988. This one also did quite well from a commercial standpoint by possessing the top 10 hit we mentioned a bit ago from the greatest hits list, Perfect World. It hit number 3 on the Billboard Hot 100.
Mm. And from what I can remember roughly, the tracks on this album highlighted a more mellow, mature sound for the group, which was quite refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
Huey Lewis and the News had a boatload of deeply memorable hits from the 80s. We couldn't ignore it because if you were young, bright eyed, and vibrant back then you no doubt know and appreciate them all.
And thankfully, our memories of so much of the music we've become so familiar with back then were truer, authentic examples of what good music's about.
Oh, yeah.
They really could sing, play instruments, and come up with authentic compositions and such. No auto tune like we're bombarded with currently.
Thank goodness.
Man, are we bombarded?
Yes.
So, Huey Lewis and the News was a prime example of cool key pop rock music.
They did release a few more albums on into the 90s, and I do believe they still create and perform their hits on up to the present. Like concerts and live performances,
Mm-hmm.
which is just so cool.
Yeah, it is.
That gives people a chance to go back and relive those moments, just like they were when they were, preteen, teenager, it takes you right back to those moments.
Yeah, that was when they were in their prime. Uh huh.
Right? And like you said, everybody's looking for a release these days. So
Oh, yes.
we'll take it.
Goodness, yes.
See, it just goes to show what true talent can and will do for any band or artist. The nostalgic treks we engage in here on the Caramel Apples podcast are chock full of them.
Cooper, this has been a cool and interesting discussion this week.
Mm.
You can hardly go wrong going back in time, talking about heavy hitter groups and songs like we have diving into Huey Lewis and the News.
Right?
Yeah. So before we wrap this up, Cooper,
Yep.
what are one or two of your favorite songs by them, your personal favorites?
Let's see. Do you believe in love?
I guess I should have done that. You already told us, didn't you?
What gave it away? No worries, Huey. You'll keep all your fans because I don't match you at all.
Yeah, he was sweating bullets on that, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, right?
Yeah, right.
Kennard's got jokes. Oh, boy. Okay, so how about you? What's your favorites, Kennard?
I actually like I like that I want a new drug.
Okay.
And that song actually hit number 6 on the Billboard Hot 100 the year it came out. Yeah, so real quick, I like the song, but I don't think I understood what was being said or what we were singing. So, I always thought he was saying, I want a new truck. And that's not too crazy odd because we're from the Midwest, and I mean, that's just what it is around here, I mean, people in their pickup trucks and
Yes.
he wanted one. It's like, yeah, you go on out there and get you one, buddy. He was he was singing his pipes out about this.
He was feeling it. Yes.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you go ahead and get your truck. So I thought that's what he was saying. And um years later, you hear it and you're like, you hear what he's saying. He goes, I want a new, and he says what he's really saying. You're like, oh, like you feel super silly in that moment because when you were singing it with him, you were singing, I'm singing the wrong thing. It worked though. It worked.
It did. I have to confess, you are not alone in feeling that because it did make sense. It was a truck. We were kids,
Yeah,
It's like you don't think about the other things. So
that's right. And maybe it was even kind of half designed that way. Who knows?
who knows? But I
Yeah,
totally get it. Yeah. So that's not
yeah. Sing on.
bad.
But yeah, this song I felt had a true cool groove that just went with the flow of the time. So I mean, it just had that party, have a good time feel. So it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. I 100% agree. Fun fact: this very song went gold here in the U.S., but it was joined by another Huey Lewis and the News song that also went gold. That song was "The Power of Love."
There it is again.
We won't say it's like a bad penny, but it does keep showing up. Connected to Back to the Future fame. Surprising? Not a chance.
Nah. Well, it is undeniable the huge success that a Huey Lewis and the News showcased. With so many hits and great continuous albums, I believe a great way to end our discussion this week and sum it up, what Huey Lewis and the News were, is this. They're a great band with granite hard history, passion, and talent. We are so grateful to have been a party to being exposed to the memories they set up for us back then. And we're equally happy that they're still around performing live on up into present. So, to our Orchard archivers, which one or many of Huey Lewis and the News' songs are your all time favorites and the cool memories surrounding them? Hit us back and share. We'd love to know and hear of some of your favorites.
So all I gotta say is, if you don't like or care for Huey Lewis and the News, then I guess you're hip to B square.
You're nuts, Cooper.
I'm still trying for the record deal. Love what you heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. To tune into future treks and to the Orchard archives, meet up with us here next week. Same time, same place at the Sweet Spot. And it would mean the world to us if you could leave us a shiny review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and explore more iconic memories. Thank you.